What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the channel once again. JB Wins, Dogon SS here to talk about a couple of interesting topics on the channel for this week. First, we're going to get into Colin Kaepernick. And then after that, we are going to talk about something that's pretty entertaining, but I'll just tease it and leave it there. Um, so we've talked about Kaepernick on this channel. A couple times in the past, a few times in the past, going all the way back to 2017, when his whole, I guess his persona, I guess you can call it, with respect to him kneeling, and now he's being perceived as a social justice advocate, or or a political activist rather. But he was also a professional football player who, at the time that he started all this, didn't know that he would be essentially sacrificing his career. And now, in retrospect, years later, he's still trying to be an active player again. He used to play for the San Francisco 49ers, and now he's been out of the NFL since what, 2018 or 2017 or something like that. And he's still trying to play, and he still contends that he can be a starter in the NFL. So he made an appearance recently on the I Am Athlete podcast. Um, I'll include a link to the YouTube channel for the I Am Athlete podcast in the description of this video so that you can click on that and check it out for yourself. But they do a good job over there. I think it's Brandon Marshall, Chad Ochocinco Johnson, and Adam Pac-Man Jones. I think those are the guys who are on that particular podcast, and they bring guests on week to week and all of that kind of stuff. So Kaepernick was on the I Am Athlete podcast, and he was talking about being in the NFL again, and then he also spoke about hypocrisies in the NFL with respect to social justice and racial equality and all of that good stuff. So I'm just going to read an excerpt from what Kaepernick had to say on I Am Athlete podcast. This excerpt is from an article that was written in response to not necessarily a response, but just sort of talking about Kaepernick's appearance on the I Am Athlete podcast. And this is from Yahoo Sports. This is an article from Yahoo Sports. So it says, it's been years since Colin Kaepernick sat down for an on-the-record interview about the NFL. It was something of a coup for the I Am Athlete show to get him recently after Kaepernick was in the Miami area for a workout. He sat down with hosts Chad Ochocinco Johnson, Adam Pac-Man Jones, and Brandon Marshall for a brief talk that packed quite a bit of a punch, especially when it comes to Kaepernick disputing many of the lies that have been spread about him. So I'll just go all the way down to the end. So it's he said, quote, "I know I have to find my way back in, so if I have to come in as a backup, that's fine," Kaepernick said. "But that's not where I'm staying. And when I prove that I'm a starter, I want to step onto that field as such." The 34-year-old also did a bit of role play with Marshall in the role of an NFL general manager, raising some of the so-called reasons a team has yet to sign Kaepernick. "Let me come in and compete," Kaepernick said. "Let me come in, compete, show you what I can do." And, he goes on to talk about the NFL. He says, "You have end racism in the back of your end zones. You got Black Lives Matter on your helmet. Everything I said should be in alignment with what you're saying publicly." He shot back, with Johnson murmuring in support like Grandmama on Sunday when the preacher is on a roll. "It's a $16 billion business. When I first took a knee, my jersey went to number one. When I did the deal with Nike, their value increased by $6 billion. Billion with a B. So if you're talking about the business side, it makes sense. If you're talking about the playing side, let me compete. You can evaluate me from there." And if you want to read the rest of that, like I said, I will include a link to the description of that article. I will include a link to that article in the description box of this particular video. So those were Kaepernick's remarks. So we have two different fronts in which to kind of dissect this, right? We have the football aspect of it, and then we have the rest of it. The NFL angle, the social justice angle, the business side, the business angle. First, let me address the football part real quick. Um, he's 34 years old. So most starting quarterbacks in the NFL are well below the age of 34 years old. Now, he might have been working out for the last 5 or 6 years, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Throwing to guys who are not NFL receivers, not throwing against NFL defenses. He's just been doing whatever it is that he's been doing. In his mind, he thinks that prepares him to be a starter at age 34 in the NFL. I think that he's fooling himself. And I think that what he does, and he does this smartly, is he insists that he can be a starter in the NFL because he knows that as long as he continues to not be an active player on a roster, he will be able to benefit from the blackball card. And he knows that he will have a lot of people in his corner saying the reason that he's not playing isn't because he is 34 and from a statistical standpoint aged out of the chance to be a starter, but because he's been actively blackballed by the NFL. The fact of the matter is, at age 34, you have a very slim chance, Colin Kaepernick, of being a starter. If you couple that with the fact that you have not been actively working out against NFL receivers or defenses or scheming against NFL defensive coordinators, all of that good stuff. You haven't been doing any of this. You've just been going to football. You've been going to high school fields and throwing against cones and dudes who wish that they was NFL receivers. And you make public appearances for the Michigan Wolverines, talking about how you need to stick up for yourself and stand on your own too and stick to your guns. And, you know, you got the backing of Jim Harbaugh because he was your NFL coach when you played for the 49ers. All these things work in your favor from a publicity and a public relations standpoint. But in terms of the practicality of being on an NFL roster, last time I checked, Justin Herbert was, 22, 23? Patrick Mahomes is 26, 27. Lamar Jackson's 24. Josh Allen is 25. I'm spitballing here, but you get my point. These guys are young. They're not long in the tooth. They're not even 30. The aberrations are Tom Brady, who is ageless, and Aaron Rodgers, who's 37. Two guys who could quite possibly go down as top 5 greatest NFL quarterbacks of all time. Those are anomalies. Those are exceptions to the rule. That's not the rule itself. You're 34, Kaepernick. So at best, it would behoove you, in my opinion, to talk about how you're willing to come in and compete for a backup job in the league, just based upon the practicality of the league itself. 34-year-old quarterbacks are not starting with regularity. And, you know, I don't care how preserved your body is because you haven't been taking hits on an NFL field for, you know, these past few years. The fact of the matter remains that at age 34, there aren't a whole lot of guys with regularity starting in the league. And even if you are starting, how many of those opportunities are optimal? You're going to be playing against these young guns and these guys who are playing on stacked rosters with the type of experience, real world and on the field, that you haven't been able to receive because you've been doing what you've been doing as an activist for the last 7 years, while saying that you've been continuously working out. So practically speaking, and I'm not trying to bash the guy or disparage him as a player, I don't really see it. And to be honest with you, when he has success in the league, and this is just me being a follower of the sport and speaking from a football perspective, personally, and this is just my personal opinion, so I'm speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for others, but the success that he had as a player was largely a result of the infrastructure that he was in San Francisco playing with Harbaugh, when he was able to run all over the place and put pressure on the defense as a scrambler and as a runner and run other guys open for big plays. The history of the NFL suggests that is not sustainable long term and that you need to be able to dissect defenses and throw from the pocket with accuracy. He was never someone I saw doing that at a very high level. So unless he has been able to reinvent himself as a player, quite frankly, I just don't see it. But that's my opinion. On top of the fact that you're 34, I really don't see it at that point. But now let me briefly touch on the social justice aspect of it, because that's his greatest ally, right? The longer he is not playing, the longer he is able to be perceived as somebody who sacrificed himself at the altar of social justice for the greater good. And the longer he is able to perpetuate the notion that the NFL is actively keeping him from playing. Look, man, if you want to believe that Colin Kaepernick was blackballed, you're going to have to at some point resign to the notion that if he was blackballed indirectly, not directly. When a person is directly blackballed, it entails literal collusion. Now, if you want to believe that all 32 owners got on the phone and collectively got on a conference call or a Google Meet or a Zoom meeting and said, hey guys, we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. We don't want any of y'all, none of us is to sign Kaepernick. If you believe that happened, then go ahead and believe that the NFL actively blackballed Colin Kaepernick. I do not believe that happened. However, I do believe that in a roundabout way, he may have been indirectly blackballed, as in these guys surveyed the landscape of the NFL and recognized him as toxic. And no business person who is for profit is going to take on the risk of toxicity because they don't want that to compromise the viability of the business. That's not just an NFL thing. That is a business thing. Whether we're talking Wall Street, corporate America, the tech industry, the real estate market, you can talk about any industry, engineering, architecture. I don't give a damn what the industry is. People who are responsible for the bottom line of that business, for the bottom line of that industry, for the bottom line of that business, are not, under most circumstances, going to take on the risk of bringing in toxicity because they recognize that that toxicity can compromise that business's opportunity to profit in the way that they want to, in the way that they want the business to profit. So when you recognize that toxicity, a natural reaction is to avoid it. And so if the owners indirectly blackballed Colin Kaepernick, it is because of that, not because they were being directly racist towards him, but because they were saying, we don't want to take on the risk of toxicity because we don't want to compromise our bottom line. Now, you can speak towards the fan base of the NFL, and we can have a deeper existential discussion as to why it is that bringing Colin Kaepernick into a franchise would be perceived as toxic. But that is a separate conversation from getting into the meat. That's a separate conversation to me from the very simple analyzation of, I'm a business owner. I care about my business making money. I want to stay away from something that is toxic because something that is toxic can compromise my bottom line. And at the end of the day, as a shepherd of my business, I care about the bottom line. So, you can play Connect Four all day and you can try to connect these dots and make it seem like there was something overt and something direct taking place. I tend to stay away from that and just look at the facts. And those to me are the facts of the matter. So, Kaepernick can do all that he wants. He can go on all the podcasts that he wants. He can go on I Am Athlete all day long. And he can continue to benefit from the media narrative that he is being decisively excluded from this club. But the fact of the matter is he put himself in a position unknowingly, in my opinion, and he's just going to have to reap what he sows. Fair or unfair, right or wrong, it is what it is. And at 34, and based on what I'm seeing with the way that this league is moving, he has how should I say, slim chance in hell of ever being a starter again, let alone being a backup. And those were my initial thoughts on, what was, the story that was conjured up from his appearance on that podcast this week.
I think for me, just with him, I'm just me personally, I'm just tired of him. Just not of him as a guy, but I'm over the media stuff with him and the constant workouts. It's every other summer now,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
him throwing, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, I thought initially the stance was against the NFL. I thought after things got weird, but then I thought it was some type of a protest against the NFL. I thought that's what he was doing, but then all of this, then he's trying to get back in, um, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And so the collusion aspect of it, yeah, I don't think there was a conference call. I don't think they do that. But it is a corporate position. If you play quarterback in the NFL, you do have a corporate position.
yeah,
And so there's only what 30 of them, or 29 or 31 of them. So there's those positions are limited.
yeah,
And so when you are the face of a franchise, and you're behaving like how he was behaving, which is apparently not the way you should be behaving in the NFL, well, then at that point, yeah, it is bad for marketing. It is bad for business. And I don't want that in my office. That's what those people were saying. So, yeah, it's like he kind of blackballed himself. It's kind of like what Flores low key doing to himself with all of this stuff. And it's like, hey, bro, like it's not that deep, bro. Like you'll get another position, and you'll be a coach one day. Just pay your dues.
but he and the thing about Flores is he already has a new job.
Oh, where's he coaching at?
He's with the Steelers.
Okay,
The
good.
Steelers
So
hired him, I think, to be a D. It's a prominent position on the staff. But yeah, he's a coach for the Steelers.
okay, good.
Albeit, mind you, he's still carrying on the lawsuit. But yeah, the Steelers hired him a while back.
Okay, good. Well, I wasn't keeping up with the story, but
Yeah,
I'm good to know that he got a position. But still, even then, it still doesn't look. I mean, when you have to go around and you're looking to get on somewhere. I mean, I guess it's going to work for him now. I mean, I guess next time you apply for a job, he gonna get it. Lest the NFL looks racist now. So, so I may have worked in his favor, but still, even then, man, this whole Kaepernick situation to me, I didn't like it when it first happened. I felt like it was overblown. I felt like he was riding a wave. I felt like he was taking credit for stuff and just putting himself in things and making himself a martyr. And now he's trying to renege on that. And it's just like, oh no, the hype is dead. Everybody's gone to their own whatevers. Let me go throw a football again. It's like, bro, you was around here, fist in the air, afro out, just pro everything.
yeah,
Black Panther coming out. They photoshopping him with, I mean, I know Black Panther came out afterwards, but still around I don't know what time, because
yeah.
they said his last game was the end of 2016. So
Right. Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
they splicing him with all kinds of stuff and just making him look with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Obama and Colin Kaepernick. And it's like, what did he do? He took a knee.
yeah,
He took a knee, and now he's up there with Martin Luther King and Obama. And so, yeah, man, social media ran with it, and I just was not a fan of it. I felt like it was overhyped, overblown. I felt like the people that were upset about it were out of pocket. I felt like the people that felt like there was some righteous thing going on. I mean, it is a noble thing to do, but outside of all right, every week we're going to take a knee, it's like, bro, it is really not that deep. And
yeah,
if you're feeling that powerful, to want to take a knee during the national anthem, hey man, there's 5 more days throughout the week where you're not, out there, tackling people like that. So go make a change like that. So you around here taking a knee while somebody's singing isn't doing anything. Oh, I'm bringing awareness. Well, who gives a, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So it was all elementary to me. It was new age civil rights stuff.
hmm
And the civil rights situations, they were what they were. I'm not disparaging ancestors or anything weird, but I wasn't a fan of stuff like sit-ins or anything like that where you're just voluntarily just going to get brutalized for no reason or nothing like that. And so the same thing goes with in marches and stuff, because what will marches do? And we've been marching since the civil rights movement, and we was marching for like 3 years ago. So we just march. That's all we do is march, and nothing happens. So this Kaepernick thing was just another piece of that stuff where we're just romanticizing nothing. And it's just like nothing comes out of this. You do know that, right? Oh, he's bringing awareness that cops are killing people. Yeah, we all saw it.
Yeah.
What are you bringing awareness to? So, oh no, he's not in the league. And so this whole thing of, like you said, like he was playing the whole card. I mean, even then, like, and so let me even tackle the football angle, because I tackled the social angle. So let me tackle the football angle. The football thing is, like you said, he hasn't been taking those hits. He hasn't been out there against guys with speed. And so his whole game was bobbing and weaving and running and throwing. Bro, you're not bobbing and weaving nothing right now. Your long strides are getting hawked down by defensive linemen now.
Yeah.
These guys are running 4.5s.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? So I get it. He sees Brady out there slinging it. I've been out there not taking blows, so I've got extra years on my body, and I can just sit in the pocket and sling it like Rodgers and Brady. And it's just like, bro, you're not Rodgers and Brady. No. You weren't Rodgers. You weren't even known for throwing. Just like how you said, that offense is Lamar Jackson's offense.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just running around.
Yeah.
And then found a gap, throw it to the open gap.
Yeah.
There's no offense to that. There's no skill to that. The whole Kaepernick thing was it was a horse and pony show to me. It was a trick. It was a one trick pony. That's why Lamar needs to learn how to throw. And I just said it out loud.
Yes.
I just said, and it's just like, hey, bro, I get it. You got hella arm strength and all this other stuff, bro. Learn to throw the ball, bro. And if it's too late now, I mean, whatever, man. Like, I don't know how long running backs last, but you're just a glorified running back at this point. So you got to get the throwing down some point. So sidebar for Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
But same thing. It's the same thing with him where what Kaepernick was doing when he was out there playing. I was not blown away by his arm. I mean, he can get it downfield, but I mean, he wasn't like ripping people apart.
No.
So my whole thing is like, hey man, I thought I could still hoop and stuff. I mean, he was actually in the NFL. So, but the whole thing is, he should go be backup, stay backup, get backup checks. Hopefully you on the Super Bowl or playoff team, you get to have good tickets, basically, and you get to see everything in up close and be with the guys in the locker room. Ain't that good enough? You don't have to be a starter. What are you going to win a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
It's like let's cut it out.
Yeah.
So, those guys are hating. Let that man live his dreams. Hey man, I'm all for people living out their dreams. Like I said, hey, I thought I could still hoop. I not go to the NBA, but hey man, I thought I could still go out there and bang on people at 30. At 35, I thought I could still go out there and bang on people. At 40, I'm gonna still think I'm gonna be out there at the YMCA banging on people. But at the end of the day, man, I just don't see it happening. If they do it, it'll be a sympathy thing, a publicity thing, where it makes whatever franchise look like they're inclusive now.
Yeah,
maybe the Generals or something like that.
Right.
Commanders. Commanders. Yeah, maybe the Commanders. Maybe they'll sign him just to show that, hey man, we're open-minded now. That was the old regime. Now we've got Black Panthers as our starting quarterback. So, hey man, I don't know, but to me, this guy has been riding this social justice wave for a little too long. I'm not saying he don't do nothing. I'm not saying he don't give back. I just think he's hella commercial with it,
Yeah.
and I don't get down with that. So.
Yeah, I largely agree with a lot of that. One thing that Kaepernick did, Kaepernick started the trend in this country of trying to force um, corporations to care about social responsibility. He started a lot of that. The biggest
He
issue
literally started
he
that.
did. The biggest problem that I had with what Kaepernick did was the result. One of the results of what happened with his kneeling and all of that was the NFL, in my opinion, was being held responsible for addressing societal problems. And that never made sense. Like the NFL the way that the NFL is constructed is the same way that corporate America is constructed. It's the same way that it's the same way that socioeconomics is structured. The NFL is just a lens through which to observe these things happening in real time, but they are in no way, shape, or form the cause. And you know what I say is you don't fix a problem by addressing a symptom. You fix a problem by addressing what is causing the problem. The NFL is a symptom of societal inequality. It just gives you a lens through which to observe it. But what happened in lieu of what Kaepernick did was the media and society and us as a people, we all sort of started to hold the NFL's feet to the fire and say, hey, you guys need to fix racism. You guys need to solve the issue of racism, which is completely ridiculous. So now what we're saying is we want a for-profit billion-dollar industry to address social issues. What people need to understand is 99% of the time in the world of business, in the world of making money, social responsibility is completely counterintuitive to making money. And a very easy way to see this play out is look at the labor force. Look at the workforce in some of these places. If you go to Silicon Valley, the majority of the people who are out there making the money are white people. Does that mean Silicon Valley is being intentionally racist against non-white people? No. It simply means that the ecosystem of the socioeconomic structural makeup of this country is such that the people who have historically been able to position themselves to make money in those fields, in those careers, have been people who retain the lion's share of the generational wealth in this country, which has been white people. Now, the root of that might be in systemic racism, but the tech industry isn't causing that. The NFL isn't causing a lot of these racial issues. It is merely a byproduct of it. So I'm bringing all of this up to say, to sort of go at the NFL as if the NFL is the reason why racial inequality exists, to me, is not focusing on the actual issue. But what happened with Kaepernick was, hey, the NFL, you're one of the problems. You're racist, so you guys need to do what you need to do, what you can do in order to contribute to fixing the problem because you're a part of the problem. And so, what do we get as a result of that? These, Black Lives Matter BS on the helmets and end racism in the field, which is all BS and it's all corporate grandstanding. None of it ever amounts to anything. And then people get mad at the NFL when Brian Flores gets fired, or they get mad at the NFL for perceived lack of progress when it comes to hiring practices. It's like, listen, if you want to address hiring practices, you need to address the fact that all of the owners of the NFL are white people. This is an economics issue. It's not an NFL problem. The more black billionaires you get out here, the greater the likelihood that you can get a non-white person running one of these teams, which means the greater the likelihood that you can get more black people in executive positions and head coaching positions, because the people who own the teams won't be so culturally homogenized. But Kaepernick came in with his kneeling thing, and to his credit, I'm going to be fair, I don't think Kaepernick did this intentionally. Kaepernick was just trying to say, hey, this out here ain't right, and I'm trying to do what I can do as an individual to fix it. But what people and the media and what we as a culture and a society did was we took it and we attached corporate, we attached corporate interest with social responsibility. And those two things are completely counterintuitive. They don't run together. And that's why you don't see no progress when it comes to these sports leagues, because they're not the ones who should ultimately be responsible for fixing it. And that's what's so annoying about this stuff. And it gets on my nerves because just like we talked about last week with Cam Newton and what he said about women needing to be able to cook and stay quiet and how the media latches onto that as low-hanging fruit. The media does the same thing with these social issues. Low-hanging fruit. Brian Flores gets fired. Oh, the NFL's being racist and not doing its part to be progressive. Colin Kaepernick ain't in the league. Oh, the media is being racist and not doing its part to adhere to social responsibility. It's all ridiculous, and it's just words at this point, and it's an exercise in futility because we're not actually assessing the root. We're just blaming the billionaires, and we're blaming the sports leagues, and we're blaming the easiest targets to blame when the cause of it has nothing to do with them. They are just a byproduct of that. I can walk into any bank on Wall Street in New York City, and I can see the makeup of that as the same as the makeup of an NFL franchise. It's no different. But we're not blaming Wall Street the way that we blame the NFL. So please explain to me what the difference is. So that's the whole, that's why we don't get no progress with this stuff. And why Kaepernick can sit around and continually, Kaepernick is going to be able to play the blackballed racial inequality card into perpetuity. And the reason why is because the NFL is not responsible for any of this stuff.
He's better off just riding off in the sunset as they forever ban me, because it just looks better, bro. Instead of coming in and failing like that.
Yeah, he's going to be able to play that card into perpetuity because the NFL is never going to be able to fix what is an American problem, not an NFL problem. And then another thing with Kaepernick, and you kind of touched on this as well, and this is kind of why I roll my eyes at him. While he was out of the league, well, he's still out of the league, but while he was doing his documentaries on Netflix and working on all of this other stuff, and he was making his public appearances, he talked about the NFL being slavery, and he talked about the NFL being a slave.
Yeah, that stuff.
So it's I'm confused. I don't know how you can say that something is tantamount to slavery, but still want to be a part of it.
That's what I'm saying.
Like. If I truly believe that something was slavery, I want to stay as far away as possible. I remember, I brought up the part-time, cook job that I had for many, many years. I used to go on and on talking about how working in that place was like working on a modern-day slave ship. Now, I quit that job. Do you know what I didn't do after I quit? Try to go back and get my job back. I didn't go back to go there to work again. Why? Because I believe it's a slave ship. And if I believe something's a slave ship, I don't want to be there. Why do I want to be an active participant on a slave ship? So you kind of look hypocritical in that sense. And he said this out of his mouth, that the NFL is a slave. If the NFL is slavery, why are you trying to work there? Why?
Exactly.
You look like you don't have the courage of your convictions when you are castigating an entire industry, equating it to slavery, but then saying you want to be a part of it. So you are wanting to be being the logical individual that I am, have no other recourse but to glean from that you want to be a slave. Because you said personally the NFL is slavery. So you kind of look like an idiot in that regard. It's kind of Kyrie Irving-esque, but even Kyrie isn't this bad because Kyrie ain't calling the NBA slavery. But, you kind of look like Kyrie Irving from the standpoint that Kyrie Irving wants to be an individual and dictate his own terms, play when he wants to play, take time off on account of his mental health and all of this other stuff, but then wants to demand that he receives all of his NFL salary. And it's like, bro, at a certain point, if you want to exercise some of your free will, you're going to have to understand that you're going to have to sacrifice some of what you receive in return for your services as a player.
Mhm.
And like to refuse to do that and to make it seem that to make it seem as though you're being defiant in that regard kind of makes you look like you're not really about that life that you preach, because you still want those checks. And with Kaepernick, if you want to call the league slavery, why are you still trying to play? Be an activist full time. Get your press conferences, go to City Hall, try to be a congressman, try to be a public official. Who, at this point, you have such a high Q rating in the Black community and in the marginalized community that if you wanted to run for public office, you could probably galvanize enough support that you can, make a play to be in, Congress or whatever. Go do that. Be somebody who can actually legislate some kind of change for real. But you're calling the league slavery and then still trying to be a player. Like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. And it kind of just makes me say, I'm done with this guy. Enough already with this stuff. But again, it brings me back to one of my central points. He knows that every time he makes a public appearance or jumps on a podcast, First Take and Undisputed and all of these shows are going to run with it to continue to perpetuate the notion that he is actively being victimized by the system. And quite frankly, for me, it just doesn't wash. Not anymore. Well, it never did, but at this point, it really doesn't wash.
Well, if he just wants to play football, that I always was like, well, just go play arena football, or at the time I was like, play arena. Now we got other leagues trying to pop up, so USFL is going right now, bro. Play over there, you'll start immediately. If you just want to play the game now. Oh, I want to play the game at the highest level.
Right.
And it's like, all right, bro, well, then go to the CFL. Because one thing that he opened up by doing this is, again, like you said, it wasn't like a ban where it's like, oh, we banning you. It's just like, bro, this is a media storm. We don't need this. And so it's just bad for business.
Yeah.
And so you have all the woke people liking you, but woke people don't buy tickets.
They don't.
So we don't care about that. So that's one angle for the people that would say that, hey, he just would, or him just saying it's just for the love of the game. I just want to play for the love of the game. Well, bro, you know what I'm saying? You can still play at high levels places and just dominate there.
Yeah.
But that's that angle. But then you had also brought up a thing where you was talking about the corporations and them not, them hopping on the social justice stuff.
Yeah.
And you're right. I didn't correlate the two together, but if there was a chart, it was spiked when the Kaepernick thing happened.
And George Floyd. Yeah.
And the George Floyd thing happened.
Yeah.
And so because then the NBA is just, they toned it down, but it was absolutely disgusting.
It was unbearable.
And this comes from a black man, America.
Yeah.
It was absolutely disgusting. I could not stand it.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, look, man, I get it. Half the league, more than half the league's Negro. But why are we doing this? I really felt like, cornbread and halftime straw hats and stuff. I said, let's cut it out, man. I don't need all of this pandering. This pandering is disgusting. It makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, it was unbearable.
It's corporate pandering at that. So all of these commercials where people are moving in slow motion, doing this. Oh, and black people, why are we always dancing? Why are we not in the laboratory with lab coats?
Exactly, yeah, at NASA.
And stethoscopes.
Yeah.
We always dancing. Oh, black people, you're so artistic and beautiful. Get out of here. I'm over it. I'm over all of this woke, this diet woke. It is absolutely gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
And this guy, he was diet woke spokesperson. He was like, hey, right here, y'all. Y'all want some of this social media, darling? I was all through the circle. I was go my mission back then, bro, as a social media guy, was to um all of this commercial woke that was going around. My job was to help level it to a more reasonable thing. But it was so much coming from every angle. I just couldn't. I mean, I was one man.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, there's others. But, it was just me and a handful of other people, man, that were see it that for the commercialness that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the commercialness just in waves is just sucking people in. And so, of course, Black Lives Matter. Of course, blah, 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 blah. Of course, yeah. And it's like, man, nah. And so we need to do this for awareness because racism is so prevalent. And it's just like, look, I'm over that too. And one it was some years ago, bro. I was a cab driver picking up freshmen. And I had accent. It was a black boy and a white boy. They were friends. They went to high school together, and they was going to college together. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I had asked them something, or the topic of race came up for whatever reason, and then they both said, "Bro, we don't care about that stuff, man." Mm-hmm. And it was such a genuine, bro. We don't care. Like honestly, like we've been friends for a while. And we keep hearing all of this stuff around us, but we don't see it in each other or none of that stuff. And I was like, you know what? I've never heard anybody really say that. When I was a young person, I didn't know what race and all of that stuff was. And I'm cool with everybody. Everybody cool with me and everything's a blast. And then all of a sudden I hear the term prejudice. Oh, that person's prejudiced. I was like, what's prejudice? Oh, they don't like you because of this or that. And oh, what? And now I'm thinking the world don't like me because I'm this and that and that. And now I only associate with, the conditioning. Mm-hmm. And then so these young people, they had an opportunity they have opportunities. Young people have the opportunity to look at older people and go, hey, that's not productive. That actually looks counterproductive and stupid. You guys are wasting a lot of energy being mad about all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the younger generation has this nonchalant energy when it comes to certain things. But what the commercial woke has done is it's channeling that energy towards this machine type cookie cutter elementary levels of consciousness. And so these kids that are feeling like, hey man, racism's bad. And it's like, I know. And this is the way. And it's just like, hey, everything's sunshines and rainbows over here and everything's doing whatever. And it's just like, nah, man, we don't need all of this corporate stuff in order to get rid of these problems. We just need to stop promoting. The same corporations promote the problems. Mm-hmm. So the same corporations, not literally, a diet Coke company or whatever, they're not the ones out there promoting this stuff. But if you talk about the chain and what capitalism does, and you talk about what marketing does, what movies do, with television, back in the day with newspaper, all forms of propaganda to promote more and more race baiting stuff. And everything you see on social media now is race, black, racism. And so who's promoting that? The same corporations that's sitting here saying that racism needs to go away. So what's going on here? So they're telling they're brainwashing, I believe. Like there's a brainwashing and conditioning going on, helping the beast stay alive. Mm-hmm. But I think genuinely people hand to hand really want to see it go away, but they're constantly reminded by the media, corporations, and everything else. And I'm not even going to get into like what they're trying to do, all this uproar that they're doing with the school system and stuff. First of all, I'm not even going to say the name of it, and first of all, as if the school system cares about what we learn. And now they're so fixated on trying to make people hate each other for race. Because those are the kids that are not really caring about race. Those are the ones with mixed parents. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones with all kinds of stuff. And y'all trying to do all this extra stuff, trying to cause dissension. Why are y'all introducing this instead of coding? Why y'all introducing this instead of workshops and cooking and stuff like that? This is madness. So this is another way just to divide the people. And so for people like Kaepernick, who was sitting there sipping the diet woke in front of everybody in America, saying, "Hey, yeah, this is what consciousness is." No, it's not. It's what dissension is.
Yeah.
And it's what counterproductivity does.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that we got out of that was a whole bunch of paintings, a whole bunch of videos and memes.
Yeah.
But we got nothing hand to hand practical done out of that.
Right. I agree, man. I agree with a lot of that. Yeah, we took down statues and we got rid of Aunt Jemima. So if that makes you feel good about yourself, then good job. Yeah. There's no more Aunt Jemima syrup. It's not like the paper milling company or something.
Yeah, it's something wow.
Yeah, like the Land O'Lakes butter, the Indians gone, and now it's just Land O'Lakes butter or whatever.
The Native Americans.
That's what you get. But hey, if that symbolism makes you feel better about the world, then have at it. But
that Land O'Lakes. No, I'm about to say that Land O'Lakes. She was pretty. That was a pretty picture.
And they just got rid of it because it's racist. But I mean, like if these things make you feel good about the state of the world, then fine. But trust you me, it's not assessing the root at all.
Yeah, that's stopping racism.
And we use these people to be champions for these movements, and people like Colin Kaepernick. Eventually they just serve as a conduit for people's frustrations. And so you have so many people who are willing to attach themselves to the ideal of Colin Kaepernick because they are unhappy and abjectly miserable with the trajectory that their lives have gone in. And they believe that they are victims of a system. And so, they can use Colin Kaepernick as a conduit with which to express their frustrations, when really they can eradicate all of their frustrations by focusing and honing on something that can remove them from their environment. But, to speak to your point about divisions, I feel like we're kind of repeating each other, but it's true. Like the social media world and the media, these corporate advertisers, they do an effective job of making you believe that you're in the situation that you're in, not because you don't have the power to remove yourself from that, but because there's a boot on your neck that you can't get from up under. And you believe it and you internalize it and you say, man, I'm mad. Now you're mad at the world and you're trigger happy. And you look at someone like Colin Kaepernick, whom you can use as a conduit to sort of vent. But at the end of the day, all of that venting is just going to amount to you going back to that same situation that you're stuck in, that you hate. And you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're still going to be there. And, the savior, these corporations aren't going to come for you. It is what it is. It's frustrating. It is. And him, I'm just ready for him to go away. I kind of think that he's a bit of a hypocrite. Like I said, if the NFL is truly a slave ship, why are you trying to play? It doesn't make sense. It kind of makes it seem as though you're trying to be a slave. And I'm not trying to invoke that. I'm using his own words because he called the NFL a slave ship. So a lot of this stuff to me, it's counterintuitive. It's counterproductive. It does not get to anything whatsoever. And, it provides for content, but nothing more than that. So
T.O.'s playing arena football now.
Right. T.O.'s at USFL. Yeah. So like go play at USFL. Yeah, go do that. You know what I'm saying? Kaepernick, go do what T.O.'s doing. I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah, bro, but damn. Jeez, with this stuff, man. Like,
it's annoying. It really is. It's annoying.
If he just came in on the humble, not talking all this rah-rah, he's still talking the rah-rah. Oh yeah, man, like just stop. Like,
I just think at this point he has to lean into it because he has no other choice. I firmly believe that he did not foresee it. I think that if you can go to him
Oh,
and
totally.
say, hey, bro, like if you could sit him down
Totally.
in the room with no one around and ask him an honest question, if you can go back,
Totally.
would you do this shit differently? He'd be like,
Yeah,
hell yeah.
totally.
Because he didn't think that this was going to result in this. He didn't. He didn't. Like, we could all agree that racial inequality was wrong, but from a strategic standpoint, to sort of do it in the way that you did it couldn't have been a more wrong and counterproductive approach. It just couldn't. Honestly, it just couldn't have been. So it
I
is
mean,
what it is. And I think he sees that now, but he'll never admit that because he has to die on a sword.
hopefully it's not a money thing for him. I don't think it is. I think he kind of just wants to play football, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. If that's his itch, go scratch it somewhere else.
Right.
But if it is a money thing, bro, you so plugged in. You're a walking brand. There's plenty of ways to make money instead of subjugating yourself to slavery.
Yeah. Yeah. Even and saying that you don't like slavery at the same time. All right. So next up, we're gonna move on. Next topic that we're gonna talk about is.